everyone, I'm really excited about today's project. I'm calling it Secret Garden because it kind of resembles the trellis that a rose might grow on, and it was one of my favorite books growing up, so I hope you enjoy today's tutorial. So you guys might not know this, but I particularly love two-color quilts that are just simple designs that can pop, which I think this quilt falls into this category. Like I said, I'm calling it Secret Garden. My grandma bought me the most beautiful illustrated edition of the Secret Garden, and I can remember just like pouring through it as a little kid. And so it seemed like a good nod to that. And so this quilt is super fun to make. It's made up of actually three very basic blocks, and I'm going to walk you through all of those. And so let's talk about what you're going to need. First up, you're going to need this blue fabric, and I use this beautiful Essex linen. Of that, you're going to need 3.5 yards. You're also going to need 2 3/4 yards of white, and that's going to make your whole quilt top. For the backing, you're going to need 5 1/4 yards with vertical seams, or 2 3/4 yards of a 108. And so let's dive right into this. So first up, let me show you what the whole quilt's conceived of so that you can see truly how simple it is. So these are the 3 blocks. We have an X block, a bar block, and a solid filler block. And so this is how we're going to make the entire quilt. So let's start by diving into this X block. And so in order to do that, we are going to take a 5-inch background square, which I have in white here, and then we're going to take 2 3/4 inch squares of our blue. And I don't know if you can see, but I've drawn a line here corner to corner, and we're actually just going to place these on opposite sides, and we're going to sew right on that line, and then we're going to repeat this 4 times so we can put this together into our X. So let's go ahead and take this to the machine. And we're going to sew right on that drawn line. Just make sure it's all lined up in the center here. There's the first one. Then we can spin this around and go down the other side as well. All right, so from there, we can go ahead and cut off our excess, just leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we'll trim and trim, just like so. And then we can take this over to the iron and just roll back those 2 corners. 1 and 2. And then now, like I said, you're going to repeat this 4 times. So I have the other 3 ready to go exactly the same way. And then we can just lay this out so that it creates an X. Just like so. And so then now we can put these 2 right sides together and these 2, and we'll sew these together like a 4-patch. So I'm just going to make sure everything is nesting. You do want to check where those X seams come together. We want that to line up nicely. And then just continue on down. And then you can actually just slide this next set in right under here. It's a great opportunity for chain piecing if you make all these blocks at once to do one after the other. We go. Whoops. And then we can just, actually, we don't even have to trim them. We can just open it up, double check, make sure we still have that X shape we're looking for. Then we can fold those right sides together and sew down this seam. So I like to get to that first little X, and then I want to make sure that the seams in the middle are nesting. And we'll sew to that point and then line these up as well. All right, okay, so now we can give that a press. And our first block is complete. Make sure all of that lays nicely. Beautiful. All right, so you can see I have a stack of those done. I'm just gonna set these aside for now, and let's move on to the bar blocks. All right, so the bar blocks are just as easy as the X. So from our blue fabric, we are going to cut a 5 by 9.5 inch rectangle. So you'll cut a 9.5 inch strip by the width of fabric and subcut that into your 5-inch rectangles. And then you're going to take from your background fabric and we're going to cut the same 9.5 inches and we're going to subcut that into the 2 3/4. And so that is what these measure. And for each block, you're going to need 2 of those white rectangles, and we are just going to sew 1 along either long side of our blue rectangle. So I'll sew down this side and then come back and sew down this side as well. So let's go ahead and take this to the machine. This is definitely one of those quilts that if you get all of your cutting done ahead of time, you can just sit here and sew one after the other, which is really nice and therapeutic to just be able to sit and sew. There's that one. We can flip this around here. Just make sure it's staying lined up. Sew down with our 1/4 inch seam. All right, so let's give this one a press as well. We're just gonna roll those back. Everything lays nice and flat. So again, this quilt is really that simple. You've got this easy bar block, the X block, and then you're going to need some solid squares. So let's talk about how many of each one you're going to need. Of the X, you're going to need 20 of this block. You're going to need 31 of the bar blocks, and you're going to need 12 of the solid blue. And so let's start laying this out because this is where the magic happens. Okay, so I like to start with an X up in the corner, then we bring in a bar block, and then one of our solid blues is going to be in the middle here. We slide this up just a little bit to make sure we have plenty of room to get all of this on here. And then our X block. And then the next row, these bars rotate. Just like so. And you can see how it's starting to take shape. I just love this so much. So it's going to continue in the exact same way that you see here, 7 across by 9 down, and you'll see I just finished it off with that nice little inner border so everything just kind of floats on that blue background, which I think is really beautiful. This quilt measures in the end 67 by 85, so it's a great throw size to snuggle up with or even toss on a bed. Super versatile. I hope you guys really enjoyed this pattern. I can't wait to see the version that you made of the Secret Garden Quilt, and I'll see you next time here on At Home. Hey everyone, it's Misty. Thanks for watching At Home. If you aren't already a part of our Missouri Star family, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want a notification every time we release a new video. I'll see you next Monday on the newest episode of At Home.